Alright, well, this is going to be a first. Last time I tried this, it completely crashed on me. Anyways, let's do an edit. On Sunday we went to Bird of Prey Conservancy and had, as you can see here from some of my selected images, a bunch of really cool birds they allowed us to photograph. Alright, so I am going to check this one out. I think this is the one I'm going to look at. Detail's pretty good. A little noisy. So let's go to the develop module. Generally right off the bat is crop. 16 by 9 is very much a preference I go to. Always keeping my subject a little bit off center. I definitely want to go after this reflection. Alright. We'll start with white balance. It's generally pretty good right now. I mean, we could warm it up. That's way too much. Cool it down. No. We'll see how that goes. I'm noticing in the head, got a little bit of blue reflecting from the sky. One thing you can do here is in kind of your color tones and all that, the saturation, you can drop down the blue. As we drop that down, there's no other blue in the image except for there, and we're bringing that back. Alright, so let's hop back out. So let's just concentrate on this bald eagle right now. I love my shadows, and you can see how the shadows really brings everything back up. And surprisingly, with a bald eagle, its white head is very hard to get exposed properly, so I've got a little bit of highlight blown out there. Highlight sliders over here. Okay, we can start bringing that down. And if we increase the whites, it's going to make it worse. I'm also going to continue to drop the highlights. Alright. Let's take a look at the yellow in its beak. Let's increase the yellow. And as you can see there, it's done the whole image, which is not something I want to do. And if I take in the luminance, which is the brightness of the yellow, that has a far better effect. Another thing I'm probably going to attack right away is the noise in your detail section. Let's target the face. We're going to add some sharpening. I generally can over sharpen a lot of the times, so I'm going to go to half. This masking section over here, very important. When you sharpen, you can see all the grain that's being added. So I'm going to take it back to 0, take it back up to halfway. You can see the grain is being added. When you add the masking, it only sharpens the actual edges. If you don't add the masking, it's actually going to sharpen every pixel, which is going to generate noise. So on top of that, we are going to add some noise reduction. I've only added 1/4, and that was enough there. Alright. So all in all, it's actually a decently exposed image, except for the shadows that were lost. Up here I've got an adjustment brush. Okay, this is where I can paint in areas around the image. So right off the bat, one thing I want to paint in is exposure. We've lost a little bit of the face here in the shadow. Fortunately, he had the sun to his back. As you can see, I'm just painting it in. And just for show, you can see wherever I paint here, you can see where it's all coming up. All right. You can also see the more you add, the more noise you're going to generate. So we're going to start again, delete that. I generally only do this very slightly. I keep the feather of my brush relatively high, and I keep the flow down. I would rather do multiple passes on an area to get the exposure out than to do it one shot. Alright, so we're going to do this again. Scrolling your mouse up and down will actually change the size of your brush. Alright, we're going to paint in here. We've lost a little bit in the wing. Okay. I can actually, down at the bottom left, I can show the masked area. So you can see I've missed a little bit in here. And a little bit around the, let's get that eye nice and... Okay, I can turn that off. One thing I like to do is generate contrast in the wing over here. So we've done this area there. I'm going to actually create a new brush. So under the brush section, just click new. Okay, I've got this point as my first brush. This is going to be my second. Okay, what I'm going to do here is, when I talk about create contrast, I am actually going to find areas that create them brighter. Naturally in the wings it's already been done. As you can see, it takes multiple passes to make this happen. So this section of the wing here, I like it as it's dark, and then over here I'm going to brighten up this area. Alright, I'm going to create a new brush now. And as I just did there with exposure, I'm going to do the same thing again. Rather than increasing it, I'm going to decrease it. So it's no different, just for show. You can see where I'm going to, anywhere I paint this brush, it's going to increase that exposure. Let's delete that. So let's go back down to just a quarter. And this is where you can generate the contrast. So I'm looking for bright, dark, bright. Really makes those feathers stand out. So I'm actually going to darken that area there. I'm going to darken a little bit of the wings. Might actually lower the brush a bit. Just create a bit of a gradient there. There's nothing really in the head that I want to do. This is an area over here actually I wouldn't mind attacking. So let's darken just that section there. You see how I've created the dark and light on the divot in its wing. Alright. And add another one because I want to really now enhance this section here. Alright. And let's just go after its tail. So one thing we can do as well here is, I know that is yellow on this brush point, and I know this is yellow. And I've created too much noise there. What I'm going to do though is increase saturation just on those 2 points. So here and here I've increased the yellow up. I'm going to redo that section. Again, being careful, the more you mess with an area, the more noise you're going to generate out of it. So I'm going to redo this area now. Actually, I'm going to touch this point just to increase the brightness. And now let's redo the whole head area. But I'm going to stay away from the beak as I've already touched on it. Alright, that's too much. As you can see, all the noise is in there. Alright, turn this down just a tad. Okay. So we're going to close that up. Let's take a look at the overall image. What I want to do now is let's start looking at this reflection and what we can do with it. Two things we can do is a gradient. If we're looking over in the toolbar here, this rectangle, this is going to add gradients. So a lot of times I use this in skies and landscapes. You pull this down, picturing this was a landscape, that was your sky. You could either make it brighter, you can make it darker. In this case, I want to try and bring out this reflection more. So I think I'm going to start from about here. That's way too much. The reflection is starting to come now. This is where clarity is going to be really important. You can crank the clarity. And what it's doing is from the bottom to the top, slowly adding. So this area here will be 100% clarity and a little bit of brightness. And as it goes up, it's going to gradient away to 0 point here. Let's try a little bit of dehaze, which is a new option they've just added. Now what I'm not liking here is it's bringing out a lot of greens. So that's something I can go after after the fact. And again, I've never edited this photo, so I'm just kind of doing this on the fly. I'm wondering actually if I drop saturation. Alright. Yeah, I'm not liking those greens. So let's go to saturation in the color bar. And overall in the whole image, I'm going to take the green out. Okay. So what started off as a warmer image, once I ran into that problem with the greens coming out, I've had to drop actually the white balance on the whole image. So I had a relatively warm image. Once I dropped it down, and with the bird flying over water, a cooler temperature is actually somewhat fitting. So this is going to be a pretty tough reflection to get back out. Sometimes if you just don't get it, try not to force it. If you force a reflection, it's going to look a little too fake. So what I'm doing again is an adjustment brush, just going after areas in the reflection. So in this case here, what I've just done is you can actually start seeing those strokes. Not as noticeable on the light areas, but it does get noticeable in the darks. gradient. And double clicking on the word exposure actually resets it back to 0. Just hoping the color balance would balance the image. So, yeah, not much there. All right. One thing I didn't add to this image was any clarity to the overall image. I'm going to see what that does. It is going to tighten the image up a bit. Definitely going to darken it. I'm liking it. I've lost a little bit of the brightness in the bird, so I'm going to have to redo that. Again, back to adjustment brush. You can see how many points I already have on this bird already, and I'm going to go at it again. Now keep it in mind that everybody uses Lightroom differently. There's no right way to do this. It's like Photoshop. Everyone's got a different way of doing something. In the end, if the final result works for you, it works. Alright. Kind of happy with that. And just warmed it up a tad. Sorry. Post-crop vignette. Let's put a little bit of that in. Generally, when I'm doing a vignette, you'll see it's very dark. The midpoint, the roundness, and the feather. If you can see here, I generally keep a line of some sort of on an angle. In this case, I've made it a little too dark. I have been accused many times of loving my vignettes too much, but again, I mean, it's an image how you want it to see. The way you see it is up to you. You're the artist. I am going to increase noise again, or the noise reduction. I didn't lose too much detail. You've got this little square here if you want to actually start looking at different areas. The wings is a good spot that would show the noise. The one spot I'm seeing generally a lot of noise is in the water. You can really take a fine tune, and that's pretty good. And as long as I haven't lost too much detail on the beak and the eye, I'm fine with that. Alright. The only thing I would probably do now with this image, potentially I'm going to give it a shot, is I want to just darken the top here. Okay, as you can see, I put a vignette, not a vignette, sorry, a gradient from the top to the bottom, and I've darkened it up. Overall, liking the image. One other thing I would probably do now is these little specks in the water. You've got a little clone and healing tool, which is here. Basically, you're just gonna click on these little points. And chances are I'm going to fast forward the video here because this is going to take a little bit of time. Alright, I've basically gotten rid of a lot of the little specks in the water. It's a little tedious. Sometimes you might have to use Photoshop. In this case, I was actually able to use the clone tool in Lightroom to get through it. Looking at this image now, I'm going back to my adjustment brush. And while I was doing the spots, I kind of decided that these tree reflections I liked. And I'm going to start to bring these back out. And all I'm doing is just following the straight lines. Alright. Overall, happy with that. I think I'm going to add one little stop to brightness. I haven't color calibrated my screen a bit, and recently I've been noticing my images when I post them online to be a tad bit dark. So recognizing that, I'm now going to jump the image a bit. And in most cases I will actually post, and what I do is I'll post a flicker, take a look how it's posted online on another device and see if it's matching up. And then occasionally I'll actually go back to the edit and either up it or drop the exposure a tad. Alright, there we go. Again, this is the first time I've done some form of video tutorial, and hopefully you guys liked it. Thank you.